Hi, I'm Jeff Dunn with the Vermillion River Watershed. Today we're in Foxborough Park, west of Cedar and north of Dodd. The North Creek of the Vermillion River bisects through this park. When the park was developed and the land was developed in the late 70s, there was little, if any, regard or consideration given to stormwater runoff. Around the same time in 1979, the state of Minnesota enacted legislation for stormwater management for new development, from houses, driveways, streets, from areas that were undeveloped before that. All that impervious area created a lot more runoff, and it caused flooding problems. It caused bank erosion along the creeks, stirred up a lot of sediment. The city of Lakeville started looking at how they could retrofit one of these ponds into the urban landscape. And they found that Foxborough Park was an ideal candidate. The city of Lakeville, along with the Vermillion River Watershed, submitted for a clean water grant. The city was awarded $350,000 to construct the retrofit or to construct the pond. The city also contributed, as well as the Vermillion River Watershed and Dakota counties. Let's go take a look at the pond, and we'll talk about some of the components of the pond and how they work together to manage stormwater. So coming down from the subdivision above us is that 220 acres that used to drain through the pipe system that's underneath my feet. And then it would discharge about 200 yards down into the trees directly into North Creek. And it was not treated. They didn't do any detention to try to regulate those stormwater flows. So that's kind of what started the flooding downstream and those issues and the sediment loading into the creek. This is a diversion manhole. We dropped this manhole over that existing pipe that went out that way, and then we channeled the flows with a pipe directly into the pond that was built last year. Now, if the water becomes too much flow to get into the pond, it comes right out of this grate assembly and goes down to the creek like it used to do. What you try to target is about that 2-year storm for water quality treatment and flood control, because that particular storm, the ones that happen frequently during the summer and the summer afternoons, you want to try to treat that water to get the sediment removal and to do other things with it to improve the water quality. At this location where this pipe is where the water from upstream empties into the pond. This, where the wet area is called a sediment forebay or a settling basin. And it's designed to hold back the storm water so that the heavy particulates can settle out of the water column. If you slow the water down, then the water doesn't have enough energy and enough velocity to keep carrying the particles that we want to remove from the water column. So those bigger particles of sediment settle out in this big forebay. Over time, this cell will dry out because the water will either evaporate, and in some cases it will seep into the ground. We're estimating that every year you get about 19 tons of sediment. That would be about 2 dump truck loads of sediment. So thinking about how we do our snow plowing operations and our de-icing and winter operations, it's a good testament to how much of that sediment that they might be putting down on the roadways in order to make streets safe for driving. We're getting rid of it, a lot of it here. Over time, that sediment will build up, and Public Works does a good job keeping these ponds clean for the citizens of Lakeville. And if you don't keep an eye on the pond and do the proper maintenance, then it's not going to function. And in the long run, it's going to cost more to make things right than it would be keeping these things maintained frequently and monitored. This cell, the sediment forebay, also traps a lot of floatables, and that includes styrofoam, plastics, pieces of wood. Those are all the types of things we'd like to remove from the water before we discharge it into North Creek. So that's another big component of that sediment forebay. So what I'm standing on here is a rock crib. This is basically just chain link material, and then this is rounded river rock here. What this does is it provides a barrier between this cell, which traps a lot of the heavy particulates and the trash, into another portion of the treatment train, this sand filter bed. This provides more or less a polishing effect on the stormwater runoff before it gets to the creek itself. And so what this does is this material is rather porous. So over time, water should drain from the sediment forebay through this rock structure and into the sand filter bed area. So now I'm standing in the sand filter cell. This area has been excavated and filled with sand. Underneath it is a network of pipe that is perforated. So this perforated pipe will act as an underdrain beneath the sand bed so that when water flows on top of this sandy material, it seeps through the pore space in the sand, and then it's filtered out, it's discharged through this piping system. We just call these risers. These are access points for maintenance crews so that they can get down into these pipes that are laid down along the ground and take a look at them, make sure they're functioning correctly. With Public Works, with the city, they really stay on top of this stuff to make sure it's functioning so that we don't have to come back and use taxpayer money to get things fixed that we could have probably figured out beforehand. Now, fun fact for this particular pond is that it's got enough volume in it to store water from 3 Olympic-sized swimming pools. That's a lot of water that can be stored in here and treated, and also take the edge off those flows so that we're not discharging so much in such a short period of time. So this structure is the overflow structure from the pond. If we get too much water into the pond, we don't want the embankments on the pond to be breached. And so this grade assembly has the capacity to take all that water in and down to North Creek. The rock that you see around it, that's just to prevent erosion and scour around the assembly. This is basically the top of the berm. There's a little short depression in here that you can't see from the grass, but that is the emergency overflow in case this becomes clogged with debris or what have you. Then the water can simply go over the top and down to the creek. Looking down into North Creek is where the retrofit or the pond discharges into the creek. So we'll end our discussion today talking about the pond. Let's revisit some of the benefits that we're achieving here. We came in and we built this pond to provide 2 things. We wanted to enhance the water quality by removing the sediment that would have entered the stream unchecked, making North Creek probably a little cloudier and more pollutants in it. And then also we're providing a means to mitigate flooding and flooding issues downstream that include bank erosion and habitat loss. These things are the primary drivers why we come in and retrofit these types of facilities. You can see where we are with our projects and what we've done if you visit our website, vermillionriverwatershed.org.